What is cortisol and what does it do? Ever felt completely drained but wired at the same time? Like your body is begging for rest, but your mind just won't shut off? Most people chalk it up to stress or adrenaline, but the real hormone behind the tired but wired feeling, it is cortisol. And it's doing more than you realize. Today we'll see what cortisol really does, how does it work, how it impacts your belly fat, sleep, and weight loss. What is cortisol exactly? Let's start by understanding what cortisol really is. It is a steroid hormone made by our adrenal glands, two small triangle-shaped glands that sit right on top of your kidneys. Don't let the size fool you. These glands play a huge role in how your body responds to the world around you. Cortisol belongs to a hormone family called glucocorticoids, and their job to help regulate how your body handles stress, energy, blood sugar, glucose, immunity, metabolism, and more. But here's where it gets even more fascinating. Your brain and your adrenal glands are constantly talking to each other through something called the HPA axis. That stands for hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis. It's like your body's internal thermostat for stress. When everything's calm, the HPA axis keeps hormones levels steady. But when your brain senses a threat or even just thinks you are in danger, it hits the alarm button. That's when cortisol gets released. In response to stress, the hypothalamus releases CRH, which stimulates the pituitary to release ACTH, that is adrenocorticotropic hormone, prompting the adrenal glands to produce cortisol. Then rising cortisol levels stop the cycle through negative feedback. And here's the surprising part. The threat doesn't have to be real. Studies supported by the National Institute of Health show that cortisol is released in response to both real and imaginary threats. Your body can react to a stressful memory or even the anticipation of something bad, a tough conversation, a public speech, just like it would do to an actual physical danger. Cortisol is secreted in response to physical or psychological stress, including perceived threats. Imagine you are stuck in traffic, running late for an important meeting, or you are lying in bed rehearsing a worst-case scenario that hasn't even happened yet. Even if the threat is only in your mind, your body doesn't know the difference. It hits the gas pedal, and cortisol floods your system in spurts to help you cope. Yes, cortisol is released in spurts, not all at once. According to NIH research, your body secretes cortisol in pulses every 60 to 90 minutes. This pattern is known as ultradian rhythm, a shorter biological cycle that repeats multiple times throughout the day. This ultradian rhythm helps your body fine-tune energy levels, manage the stress response, and support immune function. It works alongside your circadian rhythm, which controls the overall rise and fall of cortisol, peaking in the early morning and dipping to its lowest at night. Pulses are greater and more frequent. This helps you wake up and feel alert in early morning. Pulses are smaller and taper off, preparing for body to rest at night. Cortisol is secreted in pulses approximately every hour. So, what's the big takeaway? Cortisol isn't just some villain hormone that messes up your sleep and makes you gain weight. In short, it's a brilliant short-term survival tool. In quick bursts, it gives your body the fuel, the energy, and the alertness you need to handle stressful events. But the problem starts when those spurts never stop. When imagined threats pile up, stress becomes chronic, and your body stays in fight or flight mode all day long. Let's dig deeper. What does cortisol actually do? Number one, energy and glucose management. Let's start with cortisol's main job, managing your energy. When you're stressed, physically or emotionally, cortisol signals to your brain to release the stored glucose from your liver. Think of it like hitting a nitro boost in a video game. It's fast, it's sharp, and it gives your brain and muscles the instant energy to react. But here's where it gets interesting, where most people miss the full picture. Even when you are not stressed, cortisol is quietly helping your body decide what to do with food. Should it burn that sandwich you just ate for energy now, or store it for later? Should it break down fat or use protein? Cortisol helps coordinate all those decisions. It works alongside insulin to maintain stable blood sugar levels, preventing both spikes and crashes. If cortisol is too low, you may feel lightheaded, weak, or have sugar cravings. If it's too high for too long, that's where things get tricky. This is one reason people under chronic stress gain weight even if they are eating healthy. When cortisol stays elevated for too long, your body stays in a sort of energy conservation mode. Instead of burning fuel efficiently, it starts storing it, usually as belly fat. And to make matters worse, cortisol can increase cravings for high sugar, high fat foods. your classic stress snacks. Over time, this stress-fueled cortisol cycle can lead to higher blood sugar, insulin resistance, and eventually pre-diabetes or type 2 diabetes. NIH-backed studies show that prolonged cortisol elevation is associated with metabolic syndrome and increased risk for obesity and insulin resistance. While cortisol gives you energy in the short term, too much of it, especially over weeks or months, can actually drain your energy in the long run. If you're constantly feeling fatigued and can't lose weight, cortisol could be the reason. And number 2, metabolism and fat storage. Have you ever been under stress for a long time and noticed your belly getting bigger, even when you're not eating more than usual? It's not your imagination. Cortisol has a direct impact on metabolism and where your body stores fat. Your metabolism is your body's system for turning food into usable energy, and cortisol is one of the master controllers of this process. When cortisol is released, it tells your body, hey, hold on to energy. We might need it soon. It slows down fat burning and encourages fat storage, especially in the abdominal area. This is partly because belly fat cells have more cortisol receptors than fat stored in other parts of the body. They are basically more sensitive to cortisol. Research from the National Institute of Health confirms this. Visceral or belly fat contains higher density of glucocorticoid receptors, making it more responsive to cortisol-driven fat storage. So the more stressed you are, the more cortisol you produce, and more likely your body is to store fat right where you don't want it, your waistline. And look, this isn't just about looks. Belly fat or visceral fat is the most dangerous kind of fat. It wraps around your organs and increases the risk for heart disease, diabetes, and even some cancers. And it doesn't stop there. Cortisol also affects how your body handles other hormones that regulate appetite and satiety, like leptin and ghrelin. It increases ghrelin, the hunger hormone, making you crave salty, fatty, or sugary foods. It lowers leptin sensitivity, so you don't feel full even when you have eaten enough. Cortisol dysregulation contributes to increased appetite, altered food preference, and impaired satiety signaling. This is why you might feel out of control with food when life gets hectic. Even if your willpower is strong, cortisol is silently affecting your metabolism. Hunger hormones and fat storage, most people never realize. The good news, cortisol-driven weight gain isn't permanent. When you lower your stress, improve your sleep, and balance your blood sugar, cortisol levels come down and your metabolism starts working for you again, not against you. Understanding this gives you power. If you have been eating well and exercising and not seeing the results, don't blame your willpower. Blame the hormonal signals your body is responding to, and then take steps to fix them. Let's talk about something that most people don't connect cortisol to, but they absolutely should: inflammation. Number 3, inflammation control. Inflammation is your body's natural defense system. It kicks in when you're injured, sick, or even after a tough workout. But inflammation sticks around too long, can do more harm than good. And guess what helps control all of that? You got it. Cortisol. Cortisol acts as a natural anti-inflammatory hormone. It helps regulate your immune system's activity so that inflammation stays in check and doesn't spiral out of control. It tells your immune cells, hey, relax, we are good now. It essentially puts out fires before they spread. This is why synthetic cortisol-like drugs like prednisone and hydrocortisone are used to treat everything from asthma and arthritis to skin rashes and autoimmune diseases. These drugs mimic the cortisol's calming effect on the immune system. Corticosteroids are commonly prescribed for inflammatory and autoimmune conditions because they suppress the immune system and reduce inflammation. But there's a balance. In small doses, cortisol is helpful. It reduces swelling, calms pain, and speeds up healing. But if cortisol levels stays high over time, that helpful anti-inflammatory effect starts to backfire. Long-term elevated cortisol can actually suppress your immune system too much. It makes you more vulnerable to colds, viruses, and even slower recovery from injuries. Chronic elevation of cortisol leads to immune suppression, delayed wound healing, and increased susceptibility to infections. If you have ever gotten sick right after a stressful period, like final exams or crazy work hours, that's not bad luck, that's cortisol dysregulation. Your immune system probably running low, staying suppressed for too long. Think of cortisol as your body's internal thermostat for inflammation. Too little and you overheat. Chronic inflammation everywhere. Too much and you freeze. Your immune system can't respond when you really need it. The key, as always, is balance. Number 4, blood pressure and cardiovascular function. Let's talk about something that is usually left out of cortisol conversations: your heart and blood pressure. Most people think cortisol just affects stress and fat storage, but it's also one of the reasons your heart beats efficiently, especially when your life throws a curveball. Cortisol plays a behind-the-scenes role in regulating blood pressure, fluid balance, and blood vessel tone. It helps control how tightly your blood vessels constrict and how much sodium and water your kidneys hold on to. These two factors, vascular tension and fluid volume, are key for maintaining a healthy blood pressure. Cortisol contributes to blood pressure regulation by enhancing vascular tone and supporting renal sodium retention. Think of cortisol as a pressure valve operator. When you are in a stressful situation like public speaking or running from danger, it helps raise your blood pressure just enough to make sure blood gets to your brain and muscles quickly. Basically, it's helping you stay sharp and stay alive. But cortisol is meant to raise blood pressure in short bursts, not all day, every day. When you live in a state of constant stress, cortisol keeps that valve half open all the time. Over time, this contributes to chronically elevated blood pressure, which increases the risk of hypertension, stroke, and heart disease. Chronic elevation of the HPA axis and prolonged cortisol exposure can contribute to hypertension and cardiovascular disease. If your blood pressure is borderline or rising, stress management might be just as important as a diet or medication, because behind the scenes your hormones could be working against you. So the next time you feel your pulse race during stress, just know that cortisol is doing its job. But the goal, to give it a break and not keep it in overdrive all the time. Let me ask you something. Have you ever been in bed wide awake at night, not able to sleep, even when the body is completely exhausted? If so, the problem might not be your schedule or your sleep routine. The real culprit could be your cortisol rhythm. Number 5, sleep-wake cycle and circadian rhythm. Cortisol follows a 24-hour cycle aligned with your circadian rhythm, your body's built-in clock. Under normal conditions, cortisol peaks early in the morning around 6 to 8 am. This spike helps you wake up, feel alert, and start the day. It then slowly declines throughout the day, reaching its lowest level at night, so your body can relax and fall asleep. Cortisol is secreted in a diurnal pattern, peaking in the early morning and declining by evening. So in a way, cortisol is your natural morning coffee. It gives you that get up and go signal. But here's the problem. Modern life confuses that rhythm. When you stay up late on screens, work night shifts, binge watch shows at 2 am, or live with chronic stress, your cortisol rhythm gets thrown off. You might get a spike at night instead of in the morning. The result? You are wired at bedtime and groggy when the alarm goes off. This disrupts circadian rhythm, and it doesn't just ruin sleep, it affects weight, hormones, energy, and mood. This is why stress and bad sleep habits go hand in hand. You're just not tossing and turning due to anxiety. You may literally have cortisol showing up at the wrong time. And here where it gets tricky. Poor sleep raises cortisol, and high cortisol messes up sleep. It's a vicious cycle. In fact, research shows that sleep deprivation triggers increased cortisol secretion the next evening, not just the day after. Your body tries to stay alert by releasing more stress hormones, even when what you really need is rest. Sleep restriction results in elevated evening cortisol concentrations, contributing to sleep disturbances and metabolic dysregulation. So if you have trouble sleeping, waking up tired, feeling burnt out, don't just look at melatonin, look at cortisol too. Helping your body reset the cortisol rhythm through better sleep hygiene, early morning sunlight, less night screen time, and stress reduction can be a game changer. So instead of thinking cortisol is something to fight, think of it as something to understand and work with. Remember, your body wants balance. It doesn't want to be stuck in survival mode. It wants to thrive. And cortisol, when managed well, is there to help you do exactly that. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye. If you want deeper insights, join our YouTube membership for exclusive videos on sleep, weight loss, gut health, cortisol, and more. And if you're in India and need help in weight loss, our expert guided weight loss programs are available both online and in person. Click the link in the description for more information. See you soon. Bye.